if you are just tuning in, this is an announcement that Raid just made for update 3.40 highlights. And this looks to me like we're going to be talking all about Shadowkin. Shadowkin is the brand new faction that we are getting to the game. It's been teased for a while. We know that Yoshi the Drunkard is going to be the first one that's going to be for a fragment event next week. So let's check it out. It says, shrouded in mystery, the Shadowkin hail from the furthest reaches of the eastern continent beyond the Brimstone Path. Believed to have been under the brutal heel of the demon spawn for the last several hundred years, only recently have they cast off Sephiroth's yoke and thrown their lot in with the other factions of the world. Fearsome warriors all, their years bent to evil purpose have left a darkness about them. They have much to atone for, and only time will tell if they've truly regained their honor. A whole new faction is coming to Teleria. It says that they're based on Asian mythology and aesthetics. Planning to expand the faction gradually, with batches of new champions arriving. It says, worry not, we're not going to unlock a Shadowkin crypt in the faction wars until later, when there's enough champions for you to make a solid team. But here are the champs that we're getting. So this is one of the ones we did see, Genzin. Genzin's a legendary spirit, attack type Shadowkin. Now, what I did see in the announcement yesterday is I believe they said that the Shadowkin were primarily going to be attack type champs. And what I'm curious to see is how this works, because with Yoshi's kit, for example, a lot of people really weren't very impressed. But maybe it's going to work together with some of the Shadowkins. Let's take a look. This one is Genzin. Flowing cuts. Attacks an enemy 3 times, and each hit fills the champion's turn meter by 6%. Steel Parting. Attacks all enemies. A 75% chance of placing a 60% decrease defense buff for 2 turns. Each crit fills this champion's turn meter by 10%. Fated Vengeance. Attacks an enemy, ignores Unkillable and Shield. Fills this champion's turn meter by 30%. Fills this champion's turn meter by 60% instead if the target has a 50% HP or less after the attack. Also decreases cooldown of Steel Parting and Fated Vengeance skills by 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. Yeah, I like this, is that we see ignores Unkillable and Shield. I think that's going to be strong. It seems like it's going to be strong. And his passive is Bushido. Increases this champ's speed by 10. And resilience by 50 if there are fewer champions on this champion's team than the number of enemies on the enemy team. Interesting. This effect always works when fighting bosses. So here we go. So he looks interesting. He looks really interesting. I do like the ignores Unkillable and Shield. He looks like he needs crit too, right? Because right here, each crit fills this champ's turn meter by 10%. And then we talk about here is attacks enemy 3 times, each hit fills the turn meter by 6%. So very nice. So far, I like this guy. He seems interesting. So this one's for Genzin. Yoshi. We actually already talked about Yoshi before, but we can touch upon him again. Legendary Force Support. So this one is a support champ. He is the one that is going to be the Fragment Fusion. Starting next week is going to be this guy. Strong Booze. Attacks an enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a stun. Flaming Spirits. Attacks 2 times at random, has a 75% chance of placing a 50% decrease accuracy and HP burn. Battle Toast. Places a 50% increased attack and 50% increased accuracy in all allies. Also has a 50% chance of placing True Fear on all enemies for 1 turn. Has a 75% chance instead if the enemies are under increase attack. Partier is his passive. Fills his champion's turn meter by 4% each time an enemy receives a buff. And his aura is he increases ally speed in all battles by 19%. So this guy we've already seen. I know we chatted about him before. I'm not too fond of this attacks 2 times at random. Like, I would have loved if this was like attacks all enemies or something. That would have been nice. Hi guys, 14 books. I know. Look at all the books here. What's this one? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 13 books. 14 books here. I mean, these guys like to read. The Shadowkin apparently really, really like to read. Gintoro would be the next one. Legendary magic attack. First one is called a Soul Drinker. Attacks an enemy and grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Blood Freeze. Attacks an enemy. Steals 100% of the target's turn meter. He does look really cool. We did see the full character model for him, and he has a sword. He looks really neat. I really, really like the way that this guy's model looks. He also decreases the cooldown of Oni's Rage, which we're gonna get to in a minute, by 1 turn if the target is immune to turn meter reduction. Oni's Rage attacks an enemy, places a 60% decreased defense and 25% weaken, will attack 5 times instead of 1 on every 4th use of this skill against the same target in 1 round. So looks like he's gonna be strong against bosses. Looks like he's gonna be strong against bosses. Because they're talking about how this right here attacks 5 times instead of 1 every 4th use of this skill against the same target. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, clan boss, right? Now, Vigorous. All turn meter fill effects are increased by 50% when used on this champion. And his auras increases ally attack in all battles by 29%. What do you guys think? He seems pretty strong so far. He seems pretty strong. Sashi? Sashi? Oh, she looks interesting. I actually don't think we saw her in the video. She's an epic force, and she's gonna be a support champ. Sickle Sweep. Attacks all enemies. Has a 40% chance of placing a 50% decrease accuracy. Heart Pierce. Attacks an enemy. Has a 75% chance of placing 30% decreased crit and leech. Shadow Ambush. Places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, then attacks 1 enemy. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 20% if this attack is a crit. So increased attack and fills the turn meter. False Death is her passive. Revives a random ally with 30% HP whenever this champion kills an enemy. Has a 50% chance of placing a fear on all enemies for 1 turn whenever an ally is revived. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. So already in this faction, we have a reviver too. They kind of gave us a reviver here to read. Oboro. Epic Void attack champ. Spreading Chaos. Attacks an enemy. Has a 40% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense. Attacks all enemies instead if the target is under 4 or more debuffs. Mystic Smoke. Attacks the enemy 2 times. The second hit has a 75% chance of transferring all debuffs from this champ to the target. The first hit has a 75% chance of stealing all buffs from the target when attacking under a Veil or Perfect Veil. Ninja Arts. Places a 30% crit rate buff and a 30% increased crit damage buff on this champ for 2 turns and then attacks. Places a Perfect Veil on this champ for 2 turns if this attack is a crit. Vanish is the passive. Places a Revive on Death buff on this champ for 3 turns whenever they receive a Veil. An Aura. Increases ally attack in dungeons by 33%. What I really like about this is they said that the champs were going to be very Asian inspired. And we were going to see ninjas. We were going to see samurai. We were going to see fun champs like this. And this champ's kit really fits the ninja vibe. So I think that's really neat. And I really like that Raid's been doing that recently. Like we saw that with Roxam being a chameleon, for example. And they gave that champ the Veil ability, which I think is a lot of fun because we know that chameleons, they change their color to kind of blend in. So I think that's a lot of fun what they did. And I really like what they're doing here too is, they added this special ability here that when this champ is under a veil, has a chance of stealing all buffs from the target. Also the passive is Revive on Death for 3 turns whenever a Veil or Perfect Veil is placed. So I love it. I really, really like this. So I guess if you can keep a veil on this champ at all times, then they always have a revive on death, right? Let's kind of see how this works. Next is Tauragi the Frog. Oh, this one looks a bit like a demon though. This is interesting. This is very interesting. Tauragi the Frog is an epic magic HP champ. Swamp Club attacks an enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack. Potent Stench attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing a provoke. The chance increases by 5% for each debuff on the enemy team. Bog Blessing places a shield buff equal to 15% of this champ's max HP and a 50% ally protect. Also heals this champ by 25% of max HP and places Reflect. The heal increases by 2.5% for each poison on the enemy team. Toxic Blood is a passive. When attacked, has a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison on the attacker for 2 turns and occurs once per hit. The auras increases ally resistance in all battles by 40. So this one seems interesting. Oh my gosh, I see all the frogs on the channel. Frogma's long lost cousin in the Shadowkin side. His passive is like Drexthar, but for poison. Yeah, that's a good point. Like the passive is when attacked, has a 50% chance of placing a poison on the attacker. You're right, because Drexthar has HP burn, right? So this guy has poison instead. Very interesting, very interesting. Chonoru, epic spirit attack champ. Oh, I think I saw her design too. This one was really pretty. I think I actually put her on my thumbnail yesterday. Night Blossom attacks an enemy, has a 40% chance of placing block buffs. Reign of Fear attacks 3 times at random and each hit has a 75% chance of placing a weaken. And Lay Bare removes all increased defense buffs from all enemies and then attacks them. Decreases the cooldown of Lay Bare by 1 turn for each enemy killed by this skill. Alright, this one's Chonoru. Fanatic is a rare void support champ. Devil Hunts attacks an enemy, has a 30% chance of placing decreased defense, has a 30% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense instead if the target is under 2 or more debuffs. Curse Bearer attacks an enemy, has a 75% chance of transferring 2 random debuffs from this champion to the target. Rallying Cry. The basic is places a 50% increased attack buff, and the ascended is a 50% increased attack buff. We have Life Taker. Now we did see some of the models on these and they look amazing. And yeah guys, exclamation mark gems, I currently do have a giveaway going on my YouTube. Use the link, it goes with the story for Leila, and I hope you enjoyed that too. So Life Taker looks like a rare magic attack. Bleeding Serum. This is the Samurai faction. Yeah, if you guys are just tuning in, they just announced a little bit more about the Shadowkin, so we actually get to see the champs coming along with their kits. So that's what we're doing right now. Bleeding Serum attacks an enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction. Leg Bind attacks the enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%. The 3rd hit has a 50% chance of placing decreased speed. And Diamond Body places a veil on this champ for 1 turn and reflect damage. Again, I love this because I feel like she's fitting in with that ninja vibe again. Adding the veils, the speed, the heal reductions. I think it's really cool. I love what they're doing. That they're adding in these fun mechanics that kind of fit in with this, like the ninja theme that they're trying to add into Shadowkin. So I think she's really neat for that. Blood Mask. Oh, another one that has an interesting mask on him too. Rare Force HP champ. Bone Crunch attacks an enemy, has a 35% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 10%. Footstomp attacks an enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a decreased speed. And Skull Fracture attacks an enemy, 75% chance of placing a stun. And Conscript. Okay, so it looks like we have a couple uncommons as well. Conscript is an uncommon magic defense. Peasant's Bow attacks an enemy 2 times. Support Fire attacks an enemy and has a 50% chance of placing a weaken. So they're giving us an uncommon here too. Infiltrator is an uncommon force attack. Shank attacks an enemy. Throwing Knives attacks enemy 2 times. Each it has a 50% chance of placing a poison. This one kind of reminds me of like Outlaw Monk. Right? Outlaw Monk also does poisons too. A Cowboy Ninja, kind of. That one does kind of look like that, huh? So he looks interesting. All right, champion tags. We did talk about that too, as they're adding in champion tags. Miscellaneous, completing Doom Tower for the first time gives you a special avatar. Clan Boss reward chests will show all possible rewards on a tap. And moderators appear in game chat rooms. That's the next thing too.